Yo, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Soto here with the Auto Windbags, back with another one just for you. All right, I'm here on this lovely Saturday evening, and I've been thinking about a couple things. Now, I'm trying to stay positive. We talked about a few things over the last month and a half or so since the season ended, and not sure which way we were going to go, right? So I thought about ways and reasons why we will improve in 2023. But before we start, I want to make sure one thing, everybody, like, comment, and subscribe. You know, same old thing, right? Tell your friends, say hey to tell your mama, tell everybody about the autumn windbags. We've been slowing down. I think it's because the season's over and stuff like that. And there's a lot of infighting. Like people just want to be mad about something, dude. First, it was uh, people were split on Carr. Now people are split on Josh McDaniels and the front office. It's just ridiculous at this point. We can talk about the moves, whether we agree or disagree, but all this guy's trash, that guy's trash. The people we're signing are trash. All this nonsense. It's just getting to be overwhelming at this point. So what I'm going to try to do is try to be as positive as possible and hunt for these reasons and kind of dissect what has been going on this offseason, what the plan is to improve in the season coming up, and things that we could look for. All right, cool. Let's see what we got going on the boards here real quick. Prado and Sons, what up, nation? It's kind of a funky time to go live. I'll be honest with you. It's Saturday night. A lot of you guys are out chasing trim, chasing the titty, or you got to be watching stuff with your kids, or your old lady's bugging you to take her out or something. Who knows? I'm here at home with my cats. They're sleeping right there. Yeah. So I'm here on time to talk to you guys. So let's start. All these juices got flowing. I read an article Ted Nguyen wrote an article for The Athletic. He talked about making sense of the Raiders' offseason moves. And he talked about offensively, he talked about defensively, he talked about a couple different things. And I wanted to break down a lot of those things as to why these things were being done and also how to kind of find a silver lining in a lot of these moves. They're not a lot of these moves aren't flashy, right? A lot of the times it may seem like we're taking steps back. It seems like a lot of people are trying to put everything on the coaching staff and nothing on the players, and then other people are saying, oh well, it's the players and not the coaching staff. And we all know it's a mix, right? We all know it's a mix. So let's talk about the first thing here. First thing I want to talk about is what the hell is the plan? Like what is Josh McDaniels looking to do to improve this team? Now, I'm going to talk almost exclusively offensively here, because defensively it's going to be Patrick Graham. That's going to be a different video. But offensively, what's the plan, right? It seems like he got rid of more talented players and replaced him with not as talented players. And it's like, okay, well, we're going backwards. If you're just looking at it from in a vacuum and putting a micro what the fuck is that called? Magnifying glass. God damn. What the fuck's wrong with me? I've been hitting the head too many times. If you look at it through a magnifying glass, okay, we got rid of, let's say, for example, we got rid of a quarterback and a tight end that on paper looked to be more talented than the quarterback and wide receiver, Garoppolo and Jacoby Myers, that we use to come back to replace them, basically. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to have players, right? I say it all the time. Talent wins in the NFL. But I also say this: production over talent, right? What good is it if you're really talented if you don't produce? Okay. And that can be said for Jimmy G. That's going to be a different video. If he's available, the best ability is availability, and availability leads to production, right? But for right now, what's the plan moving forward? Okay. So we got rid of two high priced players on our offense and we replaced them with lesser paid players and lesser talent. Let's just call it what it is. Why is this going to help us improve? I thought that production is more important than talent, right? Okay. There's a couple things that we need to go over here. The first thing is the players that we're bringing in are a better scheme fit for what Josh McDaniels wants to do and a better scheme fit for how he has called plays in the NFL. Something that's he's more comfortable with, that he feels is going to be a more sustainable and is going to be more successful than the old way. He doesn't like taking chances. He doesn't like throwing the ball deep. He doesn't like doing a lot of things. Doesn't not to say that he won't do that because he will. He did last year, but he doesn't like doing it. He likes a more ball controlled offense, short to intermediate passing, timing routes, ways to get the ball into players' hands in space to help a playmaker make a play, stuff like that. So that's a question that we have. Looks like we're going talent over scheme, right? I thought it was, I thought it was supposed to be talent over scheme, and you're supposed to scheme something to fit your players. Well, here's the thing. Josh McDaniels and Ziegler, they tried that last year. They did try. They tried to they know the roster that they had, right? And they tried to adjust their scheme to the roster that they had. With mixed results. Some players did really well. You know, you have like your Josh Jacobs and you have your Devontae Adams did really well. The offensive line actually played pretty good. You know, some people, especially on this channel, like to say they were garbage, and they really weren't. They had the leading rusher in the NFL, and they were middle of the pack in pressure rate. So that's really all you can control as an offensive lineman is how often your quarterback gets pressured. If he gets sacked a lot because he hangs onto the ball, I mean, that's not on the offensive line, that's on the quarterback. But how often that quarterback is pressured, yeah. We were middle of the pack pressure rate. So, I mean, last year we threw deep like a lot more often than we normally do. So, you know, and Carr throws deep quite a bit. You know, and over the last few years, he threw the ball deep a lot more often than he has in the previous years. And you know, Devontae Adams is one of the best three deep threats in the NFL. So in 2022, the Raiders were third in the NFL in air yards per attempt. So that shows you that Josh McDaniels did try to adjust his scheme to his players. Because in the last previous 5 years, from 2016 to 2021, Josh McDaniels' offenses in New England, they ranked 21st in the league in air yards per attempt. So that means how far was the target downfield when he was throwing the ball. So did he already try this? Yes, Josh McDaniels and the Raiders already tried to adjust their scheme to the players that they were given. Okay. And again, mixed results. You know, RJ says it a lot. This is one of the main concerns that RJ has with our defense. And because he's like, well, you know, players should get better every year. And it's just not true. Players don't get better every single season. It just doesn't happen. There's nagging injuries. You play different opponents, and sometimes opponents are a different matchup for you. Excuse me. I got something in my throat. Damn. So theoretically, you'd want to get better every season. Realistically, you just can't. In our last episode, RJ looked at shit, I'm dying over here. RJ looked at Um, Denzel Perryman and how he played worse this last year than he did the year under Gus Bradley. Yeah. Well, Perriman already played under Gus Bradley with the Chargers. Also, Perriman was injured last year. That also contributed to maybe him not playing as well. So there's already always factors that you can look at, and these are legitimate factors. He was familiar with the scheme, so he didn't really have to learn it because he already played under Bradley. And also, Perriman was injured. So that's one example of how someone cannot improve every single season, and it's not all the defensive coach's fault. So last year, with the changes, with the adjustments that Josh McDaniels made, it's pretty obvious that Carr and Waller had like their worst season as a Raider in ever, right? Definitely Waller's worst season as a Raider, and this DC's worst season, since he was a rookie, right? So this is Josh McDaniels trying to adjust and fit things to the players that he has. And it wasn't bad for everybody. Like we said, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Mac Hollins. Offensively, the offensive line played well towards the end of the year, and they actually didn't look so bad when the end of the year came through. So not everyone played poorly. I think Renfro was more of an injury thing. Waller, even before he was injured, had a lot of drops. Maybe didn't look as engaged as he normally is. So it was not all doom and gloom here. It wasn't like everyone, well, we just played so much worse than we did the year before. No, we won a lot of overtime games the year before, and it just things that seem to even out. Okay, so now we have that. We have Waller and Carr having really bad seasons last year, and that's with McDaniels switching up his scheme a little bit to fit the player, right? Now, it's almost like those players specifically weren't worth like the bastardization of his scheme, right? I feel that Josh McDaniels is like, okay, I tried to make it work with these guys. It didn't work the way I wanted it to. I'm under the gun here. I need to make sure that I start winning. And the way I know I can start winning is with my scheme run my way. I know it better than anybody else because it's my scheme. So instead of me trying to change it for other people who, let's face it, what was shown on the field didn't seem like they were worth the change in scheme and definitely not worth the cap space that they were going to take. So you get rid of those players, right? You get whatever you feel. This is not a conversation about Carr's better than Garoppolo, Waller's better than it's not about that. It's about the production on the field. I tried to adjust my scheme for you, and it didn't work. So now, not only am I going to save space, but I'm going to bring in people that are a better fit for my scheme and know how to work my scheme a lot better. That way, my scheme will work better, which should increase production. Make sense? Excellent. Okay. So let's talk about the biggest changes this offseason, right? So, of course, quarterback is always going to be the biggest thing in football. One of the best tight ends, as reputation wise, maybe not the last 2 years production wise, but reputation wise, and Waller being gone. How are we building this roster? How are we building this offense for it to be better? Really quick, let me hop in here and see what we got going on. All right, everyone just talking different stuff. Okay, cool. So, I want to first address a couple of things here. Especially, we know this, especially with Carr, that he didn't do well in his first year with new offensive coordinators. And not that he didn't do well, but he didn't do as well the previous season. Okay. And it's understandable. You're learning a new scheme, you're learning a new system, stuff like that. And a lot of people will come on and say, well, we never gave our quarterback any help defensively and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not talking about wins and losses here. I'm talking about on-field production for that specific player for that side of the ball. One thing that RJ actually pulled up was the quarterback betrayal index. So basically, I took a look at it. So I'm like, all right, let's see what we got going on here. Did we fail Carr and Waller last year, and were they scapegoats? Is what I'm trying to get at. And let's take a look at the numbers here. So what the quarterback betrayal index is they took the EPA for a quarterback. EPA is expected points average. So what that means is like describes how many points on average a team is expected to score in a possession given the field position, right? So every field position has a different score probability set to it, okay? And depending on where you start and how much you score is your depending on your score, right? So I took a look at this information, and you can also do it for defense too. Whenever the opposing offense has the ball, where do they start and how many points do they actually score over or under the expected number of points? The reason that it's important is it shows you a gauge of not only your offense and your defense, but how your offense and defense are working together. And that can give you some information to why you're not doing as well. Because a bad defense isn't just about giving up points. It's also about stopping teams, getting them off the field quickly, better field position for you. How are your special teams doing? Are they returning the ball back and giving you deeper field position then? Or you're always, pinned back in your own goal line, right? So there's a lot of things that go into that. So I looked in here, and Derek Carr was tied for 15th in quarterback betrayal index out of 92 quarterbacks. So 15 is bad. You don't want to be the higher number, the worse. So he's 15th worst, tied out of 92 quarterbacks with 20 starts since 2000. So they went back to 2000, have to have 20 starts. And out of 92 quarterbacks, Carr was 15th. Now, here's another thing we need to look at. DC was also 42 out of 92, slightly above average. Where have you heard that before? In his own EPA. So those are his expected points above average. So he wasn't great. I mean, what have I always said? He's an average to slightly above average quarterback, and this pretty much proves it. Nothing to do with the defense. It's how do you perform off of the field position that you're given. Okay. Now, the defense, on the other hand, was god awful. Let's see. The defense was 85 out of 92. So they were just getting torched left and right. And that's a big reason why he was 15th. But let's take a look at this. Before you start crying a river for our dearly departed quarterback, he was tied for 15th with Andrew Luck. They both had a negative 43 score. You know who had a worse score? Aaron Rodgers was tied for 10th at negative 55. Matt Ryan was 7th with negative 65. So that means that's the gap between his points and expected average, right? Expected points versus his defense, right? Where do you rank? And the gap in where you rank. Matt Ryan was 65 points difference. Patrick Mahomes was 66, tied for 5th. And Justin Herbert was 2nd at negative 76. Goes to show you a couple things. If we would have had a better offense, it wouldn't have made it would have been as big a deal, because teams that led better offenses, which all these teams had better offenses. I'm sorry, I missed one. Drew Brees was the worst at negative 79. What does that tell you? That tells you that if you scored more, you would win more. No duh, right? But even with a bad defense, if you score, you're going to win more games, even with a bad defense. All right. And this goes to prove these quarterbacks are all quarterbacks that had a worse ratio between offense and defense EPA, the quarterback betrayal index. You can look at that. That's on I believe it's on the Athletic as well. Was a quarterback betrayal index. And it's what does that show you? I'm getting at this point here. Not all of our issues that we had are defensive. A lot of issues that we had are offensive. How is that going to change now with Josh McDaniels and the new people he's bringing in? It's an issue that we've had for quite some time, to have a consistent offense. Sometimes we'll be killing it and scoring 40-something points, and other times we'll get blanked in New Orleans, right? It just seems to happen. We had those games every single season. We had all these second half collapses and stuff like that. So I think the name of the game right now is consistency, is stay the course, is maybe we're not going to score every single possession, but we're not going to go a lot of 3 and outs either, which was something that I remember last year we had, what was it, a couple of years ago, we had like 8 or 9, or I forgot how many straight games where we started the game with a 3 and out, right? That's tough, man. It's tough to basically you're giving the team the kickoff on every possession. So that's the DC and Garoppolo difference, right? Hopefully, with Josh McDaniels being more comfortable calling the scheme that he has around a quarterback that fits his scheme, he'll be more comfortable to draw better schemes and things that will be executed a lot more consistently with Garoppolo. As far as Waller goes, the Waller and Jacoby Myers little change, right? So Waller's catch percentage actually went up under Josh McDaniels in 2022 over 2021. So his catch per target percentage was in 2021, it was awful. It was 59%. It went up to 65% under Josh McDaniels. Even though he had a poor season, his catches above his production were a lot better. Okay. Darren Waller also had his highest yards beyond scrimmage or yards per target, which at 11. So basically he was targeted further down the field. Shows you another example of how Josh McDaniels changed his scheme to fit his personnel, which was throwing the ball deeper. His previous high was the year before in 2021, and that was 7.7. So he far exceeded that. Also, Waller's drop rate skyrocketed last season. It was at 7%, which is really high. The previous year was his previous season high was at 5.5%. That goes to show you that maybe Waller was trending in the wrong direction. Over 30, maybe not as engaged, maybe not as committed. And also on the field, he's improving a little bit in certain areas, but his concentration doesn't seem to be there. His willingness to sell out doesn't seem to be there. He had really good hands. He had sub 4s, around 4 or lower drop percentage, and now he's above 7. It's just a big change for us. So how can the Raiders overcome? So in a perfect world, let's talk about this. How can the Raiders overcome the losses of Derek Carr and Darren Waller? Okay. So we talked about this. Derek Carr was like 15th in throws 15 yards or more. Jimmy G was like 35th among those qualifying quarterbacks. That's since 2019. So the last 4 seasons, right? So Derek Carr was, in the middle of the pack, and Jimmy G was a little bit towards the end of the pack. But that's the scheme that he was in. He doesn't throw the ball deep normally anyway. I'm not saying that he can't do it. He doesn't have the arm to do it. He just does it. He's more of a timing quarterback, precision quarterback. Now, in this article, it says that Josh McDaniels has been studying the Shanahan offense with, studying Jimmy G specifically. Well, what I would do is I would look for this season a lot more San Francisco concepts, right? A lot of combo routes, a lot of screens, wide receiver screens, a lot of sweeps and stuff like that to get our playmakers the ball. Also, I would look for like more bunch sets and short sets, closer to the line of scrimmage. Because if you have, Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow on one side of the ball, and you have on the opposite side of the ball, you have Devonta Adams out wide, you don't need to split Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow all the way out. You can have them closer to the line of scrimmage. So basically, they're both where a slot receiver would stand in certain formations, but they're each in the same side of the ball. Just one's up at the line of scrimmage and one's, a yard back. But they can still run those same routes. So that's how you can still use two quote unquote slot receivers at the same time. Is you can, have them lined up closer to the line of scrimmage so they can actually run a route either way. That makes sense. And of course, I would look for a lot more short to intermediate routes. I almost said routes. That's for Rory out there. Big shout out to Rory. So short to intermediate routes, getting the playmakers, the ball in space, and letting them make the plays after the catch. That's what we're looking for. That's what we need. I would really look closely at that moving forward for a successful 2023 season. So look, Myers is going to replace the Waller production. He's going to far exceed what Waller produced if he's healthy. Because, Waller only lined up at tight end, like a legitimate tight end on the line of scrimmage next to the tackle. He only lined up there like a quarter of the time, like 27% of his snaps were at tight end. He's a freaking, he's a big receiver. Is what he is. That's what he lined up as. That's what he plays like. That's who he's going to be. So, and there's an interesting thing. There was an article on ESPN. Seth Walder said about Jacoby Myers. This is what Seth Walder says about Jacoby Myers, an ESPN reporter. He said, Myers is a good receiver who has shown an excellent ability to get open in a Josh McDaniels offense in New England, no less. To get him for a mere $11 million per year is an absolute bargain, considering the way wide receivers have gotten paid over the past 12 months. Okay, I'm going to spend a lot more time on Jacoby Myers right now because I really do think Devonta Adams, a healthy and renewed Hunter Renfrow, and Jacoby Myers can really shoot this passing offense through the roof. Now, we all know what Devonta Adams can do. He's going to thrive in any system, okay? We all know what Hunter Renfrow can do. If he's healthy, he has the wiggle, the shake, and the ability to torch anybody, right? So we have those two guys. Jacoby Myers is the only kind of question mark because we don't really know how good is Jacoby Myers. Why are we giving him all this money? Why did New England let him go? I don't know. But here's some food for thought here for you guys. Okay. He has great hands. So what I did was I looked at the numbers for the top 50 targeted players overall. Wide receiver, tight end, running back, doesn't matter. How many targets did you get? Okay. The top 50 targets in the NFL last year. His drop rate was 4.2%, which is 16th lowest. So it's pretty good. He's well above, half. And you know who was 15th lowest? Devonta Adams at 3.9. So him and Devonta Adams are right there as far as drops. They don't really drop passes. What is it? 4 out of every 100 passes you throw him, he's going to drop. That's a pretty damn good average. Okay. Also, Jacoby Myers last year was 5th in the NFL in quarterback rating when targeted. So what does that mean? Is when a quarterback targets you, do good things happen. Doesn't necessarily mean do you catch the ball, but do you catch it and do something with it? Or are you just I'm just gonna catch it and drop right here. I might catch it, I'm gonna score, catch and get more yards, or yard after catch, right? So Jacoby Myers was 5th in the NFL in quarterback rating when targeted, which is pretty damn good because look who he had throwing him the ball. He had 2 different, really young quarterbacks throwing him the ball last year. And the rating for the quarterback when targeting him was 116. Devonta Adams was 95.5. A lot of that was because he was targeted 180 goddamn times, right? And he only got like 100 catches. So, his catch percentage was really low. He was also Jacoby Myers. Pronouns, pal. Jacoby Myers was also tied for 13th in catch percentage. So in the top 50 targets. So he's tied for 13th, man. So when you target him, he's going to catch the ball. He's not going to drop it. Good things are going to happen. He also had 0 interceptions when targeted. What does that mean? Even if he doesn't get the ball, the defender doesn't get it either. On the flip side, Devonta Adams, when he was targeted, he had 6 interceptions thrown his way. Now, those aren't his fault because he runs a lot of deeper routes. And there was a couple of plays that there was a lot of miscommunication, stuff like that. But again, Jacoby Myers is playing with a rookie quarterback, right? In what the hell is that guy's name? The freaking he started with the Z. Zappy, right? He had Zappy and he had Mac Jones throwing him the ball. And even then, whenever he was targeted, he did not, there was no interceptions thrown. So good things are happening. It's not just that good things are happening, it's bad things don't happen when you target Jacoby Myers. All right, guys. Let me see what you guys think. Let's see here. Sean Johnson, good point. Defensively, we lost by this much because games in 2021 with a 30 ranked defense plus 131 points. It goes 10 and playoffs. Let's see. I get what you're saying. Yeah, man. Look, Sean, I'm gonna tell you something right now. You need to know your personnel. You need to know your team. And this goes for the fans as well. When you have a team that is lacking talent defensively, when you have a team that it's a lot easier to change your scheme offensively than it is to change your scheme for a defensive person, because all your sets, your blitzes, your coverages, all that stuff is set a certain way. And you can adjust them, but you can only adjust them so much until you're totally breaking the rules of your defense and the coverages and the schemes and the gap discipline and stuff like that for your defenses. So you can only change so much defensively. We had a lot of mismatched pieces, right? Now, knowing this and knowing that we're lacking talent on the defensive side, and our offense, which had the most of the cap, most of the talent, right, to not score in what they scored 6 points in 4 of the games that we had double-digit leads. 6 points total, not average game average, but total, right? So we had, was it Arizona, Jacksonville, the Rams, and Pittsburgh. We had double-digit leads in those games. And in the second half, we scored 6 points total. What does that do? What does that mean? Well, it means you're putting your defense back on the field over and over and over. Eventually, yeah, they're going to break. They're going to wear down. They're going to give up points. In 2 of those games, I don't think we gave up over 20 points. We gave up less than 20 points in 2 of those games. We couldn't even score 20 points in those games. So we're looking at, oh yeah, the offensive, the offense or the defense is sucky. The defense this, the defense is that. It's offensive execution, man. You have to take a look at a couple things here. You were asking Josh McDaniels to do something that he wasn't maybe as comfortable with. Now, should he have done better? Yes. Our offense should have played a lot better. You take a look at a couple players in the offense, they did pretty well. A couple players that didn't play as well, and they're gone. If you want to call that a scapegoat, fine. I like to say this: if my job is based on the production of people and not my own specific production, I'm going to want people there that do things the way that I want them done. Right? Does that make sense? Because now I wouldn't say that Josh McDaniels is on the hot seat per se, but yeah, he does need to win for sure. Or else, I mean, if we have a slide where we have the same record, maybe even a worse record, God forbid, I don't think he survives that. I don't think McDaniels survives that. So what would he do is, okay, I want to build this team in my image. I want to build this team the way I want this team to be built. How do I do that when I don't have the pieces, right? Well, you don't spend on one player. You get that money from one player and you get 3 players. And you hope that your scheme works enough with the talent that the players you're getting has. That's where production trumps talent. When the production of the people that maybe aren't as talented supersedes the talented people that you're maybe asking them to stretch a little bit more than they're used to and the more that they're comfortable with. What's up, guys? Let's see what we got going here. The eye test alone, a Raiders 66-27. The eye test alone would let you see that Carr was just horrific. The man can't put up points, going scoreless in second halves is inexcusable. Carr had enough time to go. Look, man, Carr can go to freaking the Saints and he can light the world on fire. It could happen. It can definitely happen. It all depends on what they want to do in the person, because their personnel is a lot more wide open. Remember, the same offensive coordinator. Well, he was still Carmichael. Carmichael was there when Sean Payton was there. He's offensive coordinator now. He likes that offensive system where the quarterback has kind of like the whole playbook at his fingertips, right? He gets to the line and get me in the best play possible. If you want to do, one thing that I think I'm really surprised that a lot more teams don't do is like the whole Jim Kelly, the whole machine gun Kelly, right? The fast break offense. Also, what Peyton Manning used to do too is he would just call plays at the line. Say, all right, this is in the middle of the second quarter. We're going to treat this like a 2-minute drill. Just go out there and call the plays and keep the defense on their heels and push the ball and put more pressure on the defense. They might do that with New Orleans, with Carr, because Carr can do it. Now, unfortunately for them, he's not great his first season with the new offensive coordinator. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he played well this next coming season. Not at all. He does have talent. The thing is he's very inconsistent. That's a big problem. That's not a problem. The only thing inconsistent about Jimmy Garoppolo is his availability, because when he's there, they win. Now, it's very easy to have this recency bias, okay? It's very easy to say, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo was only good because the fucking 49ers were good. That's the only reason why Jimmy Garoppolo won any games in San Francisco. That's the only reason why. Hold your horses. There's a reason why Jimmy Garoppolo got traded to the 49ers, and it wasn't because they were any good, okay? He got to the 49ers and they were winless. They started that year when he got there, when Jimmy Garoppolo got to the 49ers, they were 0-8. And Jimmy Garoppolo got in there and he ended the season 5-3. So they were 5-11 that year, but Jimmy Garoppolo got all 5 of those wins. So let's hold our horses here. And let's calm down on the minimizing Jimmy Garoppolo's ability, minimizing Jimmy Garoppolo's talent, and minimizing what Jimmy Garoppolo can do. Because this team, the 49er team, when he got there, was not good. They were a winless, worst team in the NFL when Garoppolo got there. And within a couple of years, they made it to the freaking Super Bowl. So just chill out on that, guys. All right? It can happen, but we have to have consistent play. Clark Arroyo, Carr is going to be the best quarterback in that conference. Yeah, you're smoking that good crack. It looks like you are too. Good, man. Good. Smoke that crack, bro. Gives a shit. You're not hurting anybody. But yeah, he's not going to be the best quarterback in that conference because he's not. One of the Caesars, Carr is about to ball out. He may. There are some injury concerns on that team. Michael Thomas has been out for the last couple of years, and it's foot injuries for a wide receiver. Foot injuries are god awful. You can't plant, you can't pivot, you can't run routes effectively. That's how you create separation. That's going to be tough, man. Foot and ankle injuries. Alvin Kamara is going to be out. He's going to be out for some sort of time next year. The defense is getting a little bit older. Offensive line maybe isn't as good as it used to be. They're getting back Penning, the rookie they got this last year, but he was injured and missed almost the entire season, if not the entire season. They're going to get some people back in, but it's not like it's a ready-made situation for him to just go out there and ball out. Like, that's not the case. He's going to have to uplift this team a little bit because this team isn't as loaded as people think it is. If you take the time to take a look at the players, the progression, the age of some of these players, the players still have to go out there and perform, and there's a lot of different reasons why they don't. Age, injury, scheme fit, outside influence, stuff like that. So it's not going to be a walk in the park here. But yeah, I definitely don't see him balling out. I think he can have a better year. Hopefully for the Saints, he has a better year than he had this year, because this year was pretty bad. Let's see here. All right, guys. Looks like we're winding down. We're talking about everything but what this video was about. So, boil it down, bottom line. What is Josh McDaniels doing? What is he doing? How is he going to fix this? How is it going to be better? He's going to make himself the most comfortable to be able to draw up the best plays, the best schemes, and have the best game plans offensively. How? By having players that he knows fit his system, knows what he wants to get accomplished, and knows how to move the ball down the field. That's how he's going to do it. We took a look at our old quarterback and how he performed, and the differences between our old quarterback and our new quarterback. How the new quarterback is going to, by his history of play, fits better in the system and what we want to do. We also took a look at some misnomers. It wasn't all on the defense, even though they were bad, but our offense was pretty bad too. And I've shown you how bigger gaps between how good your offense were and how bad your defense was can still win as long as you're scoring more points. And that's the thing here is you can have a big gap between how good your offense is and how good your defense is if your offense is better than average. And the problem is our offense was pretty darn average, uh, you know, over the last, few years. We did have, a top 10 scoring team here and there, but by and large, 21 point something points per game with our old quarterback. It's got to get better. It should get better this year. With this offense, there's no reason why we shouldn't have had a top 5 offense last year. I expect us to definitely have, hopefully, everything, knock on wood, if everyone stays healthy or if majority of people stay healthy at the right spots, I think we can have a for sure top 10, top 7 offense, no problem. For sure. Okay. Also, we took a look at Waller and how replacing Waller with Myers is a pretty good idea and a pretty good way to do it because they're playing the same position. Like, Waller wasn't lining up a lot as a tight end anyway. He was in a slot a lot or out wide a lot. So if you put, like I said, if you put Hunter and Myers closer to the line of scrimmage, they can both run option routes basically because they're further away from the end line or the out of bounds line where they can run routes either way. So there's different ways and different things we can do. Look for a shorter passing game with maybe some drawn up deep shots here and there, but ultimately we're looking to get our playmakers the ball in space, look for a lot more screens, look for a lot more sweeps, look for a lot more short passes, look for a lot more rub passes, crossing routes, stuff like that. And seam routes too. That's where Jimmy G does his best. So look for that stuff. That's where I think we're going to improve this year. That's how I think this team is going to be a better team than last year. Even if we're the same defensively, if we score more points, of course, we're going to win more games. I see this offense being better than last year's offense, even with the loss of our quarterback and tight end, because the new quarterback, if he stays healthy, and the weapons that we brought in are a better scheme fit for this team. And let's see. Sam A. Why is McDaniels signing so many mediocre wide receivers? Okay, I can answer that. I think I already did a little bit. Think of Jacoby Myers as replacing Darren Waller. Okay. Jimmy G is going to throw to the middle of the field a lot. Clark Roy said exactly right. Clark, he's going to throw the middle of the field a lot. You can have Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow run slot routes on the same play. You just don't split them out as wide. They can run routes in either direction. He's going to be more productive. Now, he's the one that we signed for 3 years, right? Now, because we have such a lack of depth on this team, you have to sign bodies. You have to sign bodies to fill out your roster. You can't just have 1 or 2 high-priced free agents and then the rest of them are undrafted because there's no depth there. We went through that already with the lack of depth. What he's doing now is he's bringing in players that know how to run his system, that can play any wide receiver position, right? The X, the Y in the slot, or the Z, the X on the slot. Also, you have to take a look at this. When we get rookies, when we get young players, when we get more draft picks that stick around, he's going to be signing less and less of these mediocre talent because the talent that we have is under control and a lot lower cost. We don't have a lot of those players because a lot of those players that we drafted either aren't on our team or aren't in the NFL anymore. So you just don't have the money to go out and get a lot of big price players because you need a lot of players. You know what I'm saying? Hope that makes sense, Sam. So basically what we're doing is we're paying for like the drafted players that we should have had. We're getting them in free agency. So we're not going to get like, top flight players. We're going to get those mediocre guys that can still go in there. And that's why if you're going to get mediocre guys, you might as well get mediocre guys that know your system. So great question there. All right, guys, I think that's my time today. I want to make sure everyone knows how much I appreciate you. Everyone, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit up in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Wonderful 42, 2 L's. But yeah, man, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think about it. Go ahead and retweet or share this video. Get this going so we can get a lot more conversation going in the comment section, guys. Make sure to tell your friends, tell your haters, tell your mamas, tell everybody that Autumn Windbags is where it's at. Thank you guys for joining me, and I want to make sure that you guys all know how much I appreciate you guys. All right, guys, have a good evening. Peace.